Good morning, Commissioners, Chief McDonald, Mr. Sibley, Madam Secretary, Inspector General Matthew Barragan, Mr. City Attorney Carlos de Guerra, and members of the public. Today is Tuesday, June 24th, 2025. It's 9:30 a.m. This is a regular meeting of the Los Angeles Board of Police Commissioners. Madam Secretary, please call the roll.
Good morning. Please let the record reflect that Commissioners Southers, Shields, Garcia, Sanchez, Gordon are present, and we have a quorum. Mr. President?
Thank you. We welcome everyone attending this morning. The Police Commission is committed to ensuring equal access to its meetings. It is requested that individuals who require the services of a translator contact the board secretary no later than the day preceding the meeting. Whenever possible, a translator will be provided. Sign language interpreters, assistive listening devices, or other auxiliary aids and/or services may be provided upon request. To ensure availability, you are advised to make your request at least 72 hours prior to the meeting you wish to attend. All public comment will be heard during item number 2 on the agenda. We will dedicate a total of 45 minutes to public comment. Members of the public will have 1 minute per agenda item for a maximum of 2 minutes total. At the request of the speaker will be given 1 additional minute for general public comment for a maximum of 3 minutes total. Members of the public, if you choose to participate in the public comment portion of the agenda, you can participate in this meeting in a number of ways outlined on the agenda. Members of the public who participate in public comment are reminded that they can speak to any item on the agenda or a matter within the jurisdiction of the Board of Police Commissioners. Public comment is your opportunity to address the board, so you are free to express your opinion on matters before the board and to generally express when you disagree with other opinions expressed. However, directing your comments to other individuals who have spoken or attacking others who have expressed their opinions shall be deemed off-topic, and your public comment period will be concluded. Message for those attending the meeting in person. These meetings are regular meetings between the board, the department, and key stakeholders. Meetings of the Board of Police Commissioners are open to the public. The state's Ralph M. Brown Act affords the public the opportunity to present at the meetings. Hear the presentations and dialogue in real time, and provide feedback via the public comment period. During these meetings, there is a need for the board to carry out public business expeditiously without delays or disruptions. Members of the public of the audience shall not engage in any conduct which causes an actual disruption of the meeting. Those attending in person are reminded that disruptive behavior will be cause for removal. If you disrupt this meeting, you will be provided with only 1 warning to cease disruptive behavior. If you fail to cease such behavior, you will be removed from the meeting. All attendees must be seated. Failure to follow this rule will result in a warning and/or removal from the meeting. With that, before I move to item number 1, the report of the Chief of Police, I'd just like to say a few words about Sergeant Deng, who was unfortunately killed in a traffic accident several days ago. Sergeant Deng served Los Angeles for more than 25 years. His last act was one of service, putting the safety and well-being of others above all else. I'd like to offer our deepest condolences. He will be missed, and condolences to the member of the public who also lost their life in this tragic incident. And with that, I move to item number 1, report of the Chief of Police, Chief McDonald.
Good morning, President Southers, Vice President Shields, Commissioners, Inspector General Barragan, City Attorney de Guerra, and Mr. Sibley. Today, as always, I'll be discussing significant events from the previous week, providing a crime update, and discussing our personnel strength. And to add on what you said, Mr. President, on the death of Sergeant Deng, what a tremendous loss to our department and our city. Yesterday morning, Sergeant Joe Deng of West Los Angeles Division was killed in a motor vehicle accident on the 405 freeway. Sergeant Deng was a 26-year veteran of the LAPD, most recently assigned to West LA. What we understand at this time is that on June 23rd, about 0200 in the morning, Sergeant Deng, who was on duty, was driving on the 405 freeway when he came upon a serious traffic collision. True to who he was, a caretaker, a public servant, he stopped to help. He activated his amber lights, got out of his vehicle, and moved to render aid, and while doing so, he was struck by another vehicle. First responders with the LA City Fire Department provided immediate medical assistance at the scene, and he was transported to UCLA Hospital. But despite their efforts, Sergeant Deng did not survive. Sergeant Deng spent much of his career quietly serving others, working with some of the most vulnerable members of our community. He was the kind of officer who led by example and who never hesitated to step in when help was needed. The department is staying in close contact with his family and loved ones as we move through the days ahead. Support services are being extended to his coworkers and friends, and we're working to ensure that he's honored in a manner that reflects the depth of his service. We'll share additional information about memorial plans when they become solidified. For now, we continue to stand with his family and the division as they begin to process this loss. An officer-involved shooting in Rampart Division on June 19th, about 4 in the morning. Rampart Patrol Division uniformed officers responded to multiple radio calls of a burglary in progress at 528 North Alexandria Avenue. The comments of the calls indicated that the suspect, later identified as Victor Manuel Carrillo, was attempting to gain access into apartments. The officers observed Carrillo at a second-floor entrance to the apartment complex. Carrillo threw lumber, ceramic pots, and other objects at the officers while armed with a knife, resulting in the discharge of less lethal munitions. Carrillo fled and forced entry into an occupied second-floor apartment through a window. The officers forced entry into the apartment and were confronted by Carrillo, who was armed with a knife and metal chair, resulting in an officer-involved shooting and the discharge of additional less lethal munitions. Carrillo was struck by gunfire and taken into custody without further incident. Officers rendered aid until the arrival of Los Angeles Fire Department personnel, who pronounced Carrillo deceased. A knife, metal chair, and lumber were recovered at the scene and booked as evidence. One officer experienced pain in his left leg after being struck by lumber. However, he declined medical treatment. 2 community members suffered minor injuries during a struggle with Carrillo as he attempted to enter their apartment. One of the community members was treated by LAFD personnel. The other declined treatment. Force Investigation Division investigators respond to the scene and are investigating this incident. Year to date, we've had 20 officer-involved shootings compared to 16 at this time last year. During the past week, the city experienced continued protest related to the ICE activity. These protests remain mostly peaceful, and we appreciate the public's cooperation throughout. I want to reiterate, as a department, we respect everyone's right to peacefully assemble and express their views. Our role is to protect that right while ensuring the safety of the public, our communities, and our officers. While recent protests remain calm, I want to provide an update related to earlier events in which officers were required to intervene due to unlawful activity during protests. As of today, 52 officers have sustained injuries that required medical treatment. Of those, 12 officers remain at home on leave as they recover from those injuries that they sustained during those earlier incidents. We remain actively engaged in monitoring upcoming events and continue to work with community partners to support peaceful expression and maintain public safety. On the crime front, for the week ending June 21st, for the 4-week period, the department observed a continued reduction in property crimes, which dropped by 13% compared to the previous 4-week period. This significant increase in property crime helped drive an overall 8.6% decline in combined Part 1 persons and property crimes citywide, or a reduction of 710 total incidents. However, during the same period, we did see a 7.4% increase in persons crimes. While the rise in violent crime remains a concern, the broader downward trend in total reported crime is encouraging and continues to guide our deployment and prevention strategies. Looking specifically at homicides year to date, we're seeing a 27.7% decrease citywide compared to this time in 2024, with 41 fewer victims. In terms of shooting victims year to date, we've seen a 12% reduction, with 61 fewer crimes compared to 2024. Aggravated assaults were up 7.7% over the 4 weeks. Robberies increased slightly by 2.5%. And in contrast, burglaries showed a decline. Overall burglaries were down over 14%. Residential burglaries dropped over 12%. And non-residential burglaries decreased by just under 15%. Finally, motor vehicle thefts declined by 11.7% over the 4-week period, which is about 178 fewer reported incidents compared to the previous 4 weeks. On the personnel front, as of June 23rd, our sworn personnel strength is 8,739. Our civilian professional staffing is 2,650, and we have 355 reserve officers. That completes my report to the Commission this morning, Mr. President. Thank you.
Thank you, Chief. The only question I have is I'd like to know, are we still deployed in the Palisades for traffic control?
We are deployed in the Palisades, however, not for traffic control, for crime suppression. We have 1 sergeant and 10 officers deployed there. CHP is still deployed there, and a heightened state of awareness and, a lack of crime activity, thankfully. So we're comfortable that we're doing the right thing. We downsized significantly from what had been our posture for the previous 6 months.
Okay, thank you. I'll defer to my fellow commissioners for questions or comments. Vice President Shields.
Thank, thank you, Chief, for the report. And I would say this is a very sad time for the department. With regards to the death of Sergeant Deng, my deepest condolences to the family, friends, and colleagues, particularly those at the West LA Division and also the Mental Evaluations Unit, where he spent nearly 17 years serving the people there. And I think, Sergeant Deng represents the best of LAPD, and he spent his final moments honoring the badge that he wore by protecting and serving others. And I hope any folks within the department or family friends who need additional support seek it out. So thank you, Chief. And it's good to hear that the ongoing protests have been mostly peaceful. One question I have about the ongoing enforcement efforts, has there been any reports to the department of individuals impersonating officers or trying to do copycat type abductions or anything like that? And how is the department prepared to address any of those types of concerns?
Yeah, certainly we have a heightened state of vigilance because anecdotally, we've heard the same thing that potentially is going on. We're alert to that. We're listening for that. We haven't been able to substantiate any of that activity in the city.
Thank you, Chief. That's all the questions I have.
Thank you. Commissioner Garcia.
Good morning, Chief. Thank you. First of all, just condolences to Sergeant Deng's family and loved ones, and to all those who were impacted by that incident. I too have the same sort of questions in terms of impersonating, so I appreciate the answer. What are the steps we're taking to ensure that that's not happening, and what type of information are we getting out to the community in terms of what they should be doing if they're unsure of who's either approaching them or knocking on their door or otherwise seeking to try to detain them?
Yeah, thank you. Good question, difficult answer. On that front, it's our goal to be able to protect everybody in our community. So if somebody is unsure that the people they're dealing with are actually agents of the federal government, call 911. We will respond, as we do to every call for help from the community, and try and, as best we can, ascertain who's there, what their purpose is, and although we can't intervene or we don't intervene in any kind of civil immigration enforcement, hopefully we can be in a position where we can make sure that they are who they say they are. Yeah.
Thank you. Commissioner Sanchez-Gordon.
Yes, good morning, everyone. Good morning, Chief, and I also extend my deepest condolences to the family of Sergeant Deng.
Thank you.
It was a tragic day yesterday, very sad. And I also extend my condolences to his family and all the colleagues of LAPD.
Thank you, Commissioner.
Just to follow up on the two questions that my colleagues referred to regarding impersonating officers, et cetera. I think we're all familiar with what we are referring to. I'd like to know if the LAPD officers have any guidelines, have been in any way spoken to regarding what is happening in our community regarding these masked men, for the most part, armed, masked men in unmarked cars. Guidelines as to what they should or should not do if they're not sure that these are federal officers?
It's unprecedented territory, to be very honest.
Yes,
So
it
our
is.
officers, a lot of conversation around
Sir,
this.
would you please allow the chief to respond to the comment from the commissioner? Thank you. Sorry, chief.
As I mentioned, unprecedented circumstances that they're facing out there. There's been a lot of conversation around it, a lot of concern for blue-on-blue interactions, a lot of concern about community perceptions that the people who are out there are not who they purport to be, and as was asked about earlier, certainly expresses that concern. Generally, officers will respond to a call like this. If they see an incident, they'll get a supervisor out there, and the supervisor's role will be to try and make sure that the law enforcement agency or agencies that are represented there are actually who they say they are, and that they're taking whatever enforcement action they're taking. Our ability to be able to intercede in that is very, very limited.
So just to follow up on that, Chief, are you saying that in that situation, I'm going to refer to the situation at Dodger Stadium. If someone, a citizen, is being detained, arrested, in that scenario and asks for the LAPD assistance because nobody knows who these people are, what is the obligation, the duty? Is there any guideline that the LAPD officer present at the scene has when a citizen asks for help? Help.
Yeah, I just mentioned that the guidelines are for the officers to respond, try and maintain the peace, get a supervisor out there, and then they ascertain, are they an official law enforcement agency? And if they are, then they go about their duties. If there's a complaint, that would be registered then with the agency.
Thank you.
Chief, just one additional question. There have been reports that tow trucks are staging to remove ICE vehicles that are staging for raids as they are illegally parked in the street before they go to take someone into custody. Have we responded to any calls like that? And if we got a call like that, what would our actions be where tow trucks are removing cars that are double parked, flashes going, and then ICE agents get out and leave them in the street?
Yeah, if they're in the street, that would be a police agency who would be the one charged with that. That's not happening. I haven't heard any reports of that, and that's the first. Yeah.
I do have another question.
Thank you. Commissioner Sanchez-Gordon, go ahead.
Another question, Chief. I know that there was an alert after the bombing in Iraq from the U.S. government that there was going to be more surveillance. And please, correct me if I'm not correct, but that there was an order for more surveillance or assistance at our local churches, mosques,
Right.
et cetera. With everything else that is happening in our community, with ICE, other federal agents, especially these people that cannot be identified, is our department also deploying further assistance in our community to help the community with this situation?
Yes, when an event like that happens anywhere in the world, anything that happens anywhere in the world, generally there's some impact felt here in Los Angeles. We try and identify what the impacts may be, contact the affected community, and then in the case that you mentioned, we will do extra patrol. We will do the things we often do, working with the community to provide a sense of comfort, that we're there for them, and that we're doing everything we can to be able to address their anxieties and concerns. And so we did that on the recent bombing, and we continue to work closely with them. We have people who are assigned liaison responsibilities with the various communities throughout the city, and they're in close contact with the community all the time. And so we believe, our finger on the pulse for all of our communities throughout the city. And when there's a need, we try and step up and meet that. Certainly, our resources are stretched, have been stretched more in the last 6 months than probably in a long time. We're down about 1,400 officers, so yeah, certainly there's an impact anytime, the needs increase. but we do the very best we can.
Thank you.
Thank you, Chief, and thank you for the update on the 52 officers that were injured and the 12 that are at home. I hope for speedy recovery for them.
Thank you.
We'll now move on to agenda item number 2, public comment. Madam Secretary, please identify the first speaker.
Up first, we have Pamela Webb.
Oh, good morning. I just want to say that my son was murdered on July the 6th of 2024, and we've been trying to be in contact with the police to find out what was going on, and the police was not giving us any kind of response. They wouldn't. We just got the first call from the liaison telling us the situation. And after that, we've been trying to contact the police. We tried to get his property. I said, well, he was in his car. He had his car keys, his cell phone, his wallet. Where all is his property at? And they wouldn't give us no response. Then I finally talked to a detective, Torres, and he said that they was holding his property until the investigation was over. But basically, every time we tried to contact the police, we was getting nothing. Unanswered calls, I was leaving messages and wasn't getting nothing. And then until this year, it was, I think, March. Well, me and my daughter, we tried to get a lawyer to find out what was going on because they told us that he died in police custody. So we assuming that it had something to do with the police. And so we got the lawyer and then found out that the police said he was already dead when they got there, and then they released the video because we knew it was video cameras in the area, and they released the video, and we seen my son being murdered right on the video, and to me and to us, he was like helpless. The man was just strangling him, and he beating on the ground for his life, and the man was just strangling him. He was outside. I don't know what the police said. He broke in somebody's house. He wasn't a thief to break in somebody's house, so I don't know the situation with that because they haven't told us anything. But all I know is seen like he was helpless to me, and the man was on top of him, just choking him. It's a video of it, and he banging on the ground for his life. And then they said it was justifiable homicide, and I didn't see how it was justified because it seemed like my son was defenseless. He was just down there and being strangled to death in front of the camera. So that's all I say, and just that the police did not tell us anything. They just call us every once in a blue moon. They call us to tell us they were releasing the video. Then I got a message from them saying that they having this hearing today. But my daughters, they've been coming to the hearing. But I recently moved to another state. I'm living in Las Vegas, Nevada, and plus I work basically every day, so I don't have time to keep trying to beat the door down and get results. So that's all I have to say.
Thank you, ma'am. We'll have somebody meet you in the back there and provide you some explanation and assistance.
Another thing, yeah, because they said that, on the camera, you can see the man strangling him. It's plain as day, but the DA won't press charges against the guy. I don't understand.
Okay. Up next, we have Katrina Thomas. Oh, okay.
I haven't been asleep. I came straight from work to come here to from what I assumed, what was placed in my mother's voicemail was that you guys, not even you guys, somebody was going to present my brother's case, and that's what we were told that you guys were going to do here. But apparently, the case is going to be in a secluded message without us. So what was the point? Why you guys didn't have this I haven't been asleep. We just drove so far to tell us you guys having a secret meeting that you guys could have had the first time I was here, the second time I was here. I'm here again. The police commissioner's job is what? To make the LAPD do what they're supposed to do, right? Who builds? Who gives the information to who to do what they need to do? Who reaches out to who to tell? We should not have to chase for a DA's name, for a main detective's name. We don't know anything. We should not have to. Those are the simple things. Okay, this detective is handling your case. This is the DA. But and then the first call, the detective Leon's whoever spoke with us went in a training. Now he's retiring. Now so who's working? It's been a year. It's been a year. You guys may be different departments, but you guys are all one team. Be righteous. To protect and to serve who? What? Who? Who are we protecting? Who are we serving? Who? I don't understand. We're here. What was the point of you? What was the point you telling us you guys are having a closed meeting? I haven't been to sleep. I have to work tonight. What was the point of you telling us you could have said we're having a meeting alone. Like, that was dumb. You're not giving us information. You're just telling us shut up. My brother was murdered. You're the police. You saw it. He was murdered. Quit telling us to figure it out on our own. That's stupid. That's your job. Not to just make sure he's okay, but to protect and serve. Because he's not okay. He's dead. He's dead. And I don't care how high he was. High doesn't mean you're supposed to die from strangulation. Because it wasn't an overdose, which you guys trying to make it seem like it is. You saw the video the day it happened. Somebody saw it the day it happened, and you knew it was strangulation. Because when we saw it, we knew it was strangulation. I never for 1 second believed it was an overdose. Protect is to serve, detect, investigate. I'm sure there's more investigators than there is DAs. Who's helping who? What are the two? The different departments? For what? I bet you all y'all paychecks come from the same bank. Why did y'all waste our time? I'm tired. I haven't been asleep. Why did you waste our time? That's crazy. I bet you your check is bigger than mine. I bet you it costs money to get here. Oil changes, tires. I don't live around the corner, up the street. Why y'all playing with us? Who do you fear? Who do y'all fear? Because that's where it's at. That's where it's at. It's crazy because before my brother died, 10 years ago, I had a vision of a death in a dark alley. It's funny that he died in the back and it looks like an alley. But it's crazy because around that same time,
Ma'am,
study Ezekiel.
ma'am, please speak. This officer is going to speak to you in the rear.
I spoke to him. So what is the third time? Did I call off work when I'm tired?
Okay. Please.
My stomach's been in knots. I was like throwing up to come here for nothing. I thought I was going to hear some information about my brother.
Officer, if you would, and explain the procedure for closed session. Thank you. Madam Secretary.
To hear it over and over every week. But y'all did a check on top of it, on top of the other check, on top of who knows what else, and what else, and what else.
Up
Madam
next,
Secretary, please call the next speaker.
we have Danny Smith on Zoom.
All items.
Okay, 3 minutes.
Good morning, Commissioners. Last month, during National Police Week in Washington, D.C., officers from around the world gathered to honor those who gave their lives in service. It was a time for reverence and professionalism. The LAPD sent representatives, including Officer and League Director Debbie Thomas. Rather than upholding the dignity of the department, she reportedly chose to party, drink excessively, and behave in a way that clearly falls under conduct unbecoming of a police officer. Her actions were public and witnessed by many. Even more disturbing, she was reportedly publicly insubordinate to Newton Area Captain Keith Green and demeaned Newton officers by calling them loser, saying only loser are allowed to work Newton gangs. What makes this worse is that Officer Thomas has since apologized to several people for her behavior, an admission that she knows it was wrong. That acknowledgement alone should trigger accountability. She needs to apologize to the Newton command and Newton officers. Instead, it appears that because she is a league director, she believes that she's above the rules and protected from consequences. That double standard is unacceptable. Any other officer would likely be facing a personnel complaint, disciplinary action, and removal from a leadership position. There cannot be one standard for the league and another for everyone else. Newton officers deserve better. The LAPD deserves better. And the public deserves leadership that honors the badge, not disgraces it. A personnel complaint needs to be initiated and all witnesses identified and interviewed, starting with department employees John Pinto, Joretta Sanzos, David Abdalian, Yassir Gilani, Keith Green, and everyone else that was present. Everyone is held accountable, or no one is held accountable. We cannot accept double standards. Thank you.
Next, we have Andrew Graebner.
Okay, so starting off with the Chiefs report. The Chiefs report should be limited to a maximum of 3 minutes at every meeting. If the Chiefs report exceeds 3 minutes, we should match the amount of time the Chief takes. Regardless of how long the Chief takes to give this report, everyone should be able to speak both in person and on the phone. So, as always, we hear a lot about concerns when LAPD officers are killed, things like that. But you don't show the same concern when community members are killed, often by the police. And yet you don't have any. It's just the person was struck by gunfire. Even though you can't even say the officer fired a gun at the person. You can't even say that. You gotta make it sound as though it might not even, it's just a random bullet that just showed up out of nowhere, I guess, or something. I don't know. And as always, we talked about the protests again. The protests were peaceful until the cops showed up and started attacking protesters, firing less lethals. And how many injuries have the police caused towards community? How many community members have been injured by the police during the protests? You don't seem to have an answer for that, I guess. None of you asked. And none of you asked about the journalist, member of the press, who was held all weekend by the LAPD for documenting an ICE raid. None of you had any questions on that whatsoever. No charges were filed against this member of the press, of course. No questions from any of you about it. Okay, so we have the consent agenda. We have a donation for a swim party, something like that, looks like for the cadets, I think. So the ones where you indoctrinate teenagers while sexually assaulting, into being police officers while sexually assaulting them. We have a $8,500. Oh, we have
Next, we have Michael Clark.
Hi, Board. On the Anthony Soul case, what the family, I think, is looking for is just to get some real information, not from the officer who's the liaison, but either the lead investigator and/or having a simple 20-minute, 30-minute meeting with the DA's office. I understand it's been ruled as justifiable homicide, and I think the DA's rejected the case so far. We want to discuss the details, sit down and talk about a little bit of the evidence and how they came to that determination. When you look at that video, this isn't an in-custody death. I know you guys are meeting on that, but the cops did what they were supposed to do when they showed up. You can see clearly in the video. This is about the guy who chased down a guy who was running away. He wasn't running to anybody. This guy isn't a robber. This is a high-quality individual that I've been friends with for 15 years. He wasn't robbing anybody. There was misunderstanding, and he was running away from the guy. He wasn't a threat to anybody at the time, and it's on video. It's like a darn movie that you can sit there and look at it going, oh, my God, I can't believe we're watching, a murder. So I think what we're requesting, to the extent that we could speak with your department and lead investigator and/or get us to the DA's office to simply have a meeting and say, how did you come to this conclusion? And we're not talking about hours of meeting. We need 20 minutes from somebody. I've made probably 25 phone calls trying to get to a DA to say, hey, can the family come and meet? And can we see what's going on with this thing? Impossible to get through anybody. So I'm coming here today requesting for a meeting with the investigator or and primarily the DA's office. I think if you can help us with that, we would much appreciate it.
If you would, if you could meet with the sergeant in the back there, he'll take care of you.
Yeah, he said and maybe he can get something like that done, and maybe he can't. Anything that you can put some will in and get a nice, calm, meeting. His sister is rightfully very worked up, but we just want to get some real evidentiary information if we can.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Next on Zoom, we have Steve Riley.
Good morning.
Good morning. What items would you like to speak on?
All items, please.
Okay, 3 minutes.
First, I'd like to ask for a moment of silent prayer for Sergeant Deng and the unknown civilian that lost their life. Thank you. I knew Officer Deng as a young officer there in Central Division working downtown, and later he worked at Mental Evaluation Unit. And he had a great heart. He had the enthusiasm to protect and serve. His final act, as was commented on, was in service to protect others. He represents the best of LAPD. He's not the only one that has that type of heart. There are many officers that serve on a daily basis, unknown to the public, that serve with the same heart to protect and serve. And I ask that the public remember that as they support their local officers. Communication is a very important thing. And I'm glad to be able to speak today, but there have been weeks past where people calling in on Zoom have not been allowed to speak. So thank you, President Suthers, for allowing this to happen. The alternating in-person Zoom, I think, is the way to go. There are people who, for different reasons, medical reasons, health reasons, geographic reasons, cannot be there in person. It's a difficult place to get to police headquarters on Tuesday at 9:30. Many people are working, going to school, conducting their lives. I ask again, as many have asked, that you sometimes have the meetings in person, but beyond that, have them in the evening where there can be more participation of the public who you serve. Today, there's going to be a Pride presentation. I presented a letter that's been posted. Thank you for posting it. I encourage everyone to read that letter and letters of the past weeks where Voices for LAPD has also addressed some very important issues. Instead of having a presentation on so-called pride, I'd rather hear from the federal agencies that are working in Los Angeles. They can answer, maybe as inviting them as guests and see if they would accept the invitation and see how perhaps we can get some questions answered. The commissioner who described ICE federal agents as armed, masked men in unmarked cars, you're making them sound nefarious, and they're not. They're trying to do their job. And their job is to remove the criminal element that is illegal in the city of Los Angeles, which helps all communities. So let's not put out a false narrative there, making it sound like they're kidnapping people off the street, committing crimes. If LAPD had a better relationship with ICE, perhaps we can have a better, safer city. God bless the LAPD. God save Los Angeles. Thank you.
Next, we have Audit LA.
Ma'am, we have a mic. He's going to bring it to you. Okay.
Okay, can you hear me? It's really hard to hear a family, going through that, and I can't imagine as a mother seeing your son on a video having his life choked out of him on the ground begging for help. And like you said, I know it wasn't the police, it was somebody else, but I just can't imagine. I'm trying to put myself in her shoes, and I don't want to put myself in her shoes because it's just too much. And begging for help, so I hope you do help her. I don't know why, if somebody's running away, why the DA wouldn't do something. But then I'm thinking of another case where, I'm always here to talk about the abuses of Scientology and how I want them off your CPAP because of over-influence. So this is a mother who watched her son lose his life, and the DA is, ruled what he is, can't get any access to him. But Scientology can call, pester the city attorney and the DA until they get somebody, I think he's over there, would have been at most infractions, just, stupid little petty stuff during protests. I don't agree with what he did, because I think you shouldn't do anything to bring any attention to yourself, but at most infractions. But now, because of Scientology's influence, because they sit on CPABs and they have such a direct contact and they're so ingrained, it's now wobbled up to a bunch of felonies and hate crimes, like moving a sign and removing a ornament that was ordered removed by the city is a hate crime. I don't know in whose reality. So, so I think it's just really sad that this mother has to come and beg a chief in person for access to be able to find out why her son isn't getting any justice. But Scientology can just, put pressure and, on something and try to turn this person into, and I'm not a fan, I'll be honest, I'm not a fan, of certain things, but he's not a felon, okay? He's not a felon. He's just not. And, and for them to be able to just pick up the phone and think that they can get what they want when they want it is wrong. And nobody should have to sit there and fight for their freedom because Scientology doesn't want to deal with you, or, they're trying to do that, they harassed us at the protests and stuff and all kinds of stuff, but it's enough that I am begging you to remove them from CPABs and remove their influence of LAPD, period. I can't ask you anymore, and that's why I'm here, sir, and I'm asking you, please, thank you.
Thank you.
Next, we have Mona M.
Good morning. Can you hear me?
Good morning. Yes, what items would you like to speak on?
All items, please.
Okay, 3 minutes.
And I promise we didn't correlate this. Thank you for the opportunity to comment today. It was great to be there in person last week. I've been asking about Scientology having a seat on the CPAB for quite a while now, but I'm now actually rethinking my comments only because I feel in fear there might be some damage coming up from that. And I'm concerned for Janet Whelan's welfare. No one has seen or heard from her since we have been making these comments. And I always mention that I'm not here to protest the belief in a religion, but to protest their abusive practices. One such abusive practice is human trafficking. Per the California definition of human trafficking, their practice of moving people around to move that a little bit more, people that are religious volunteers working 70 to 80 hours a week for $47 a week stipend, people that are either minors or elderly for the sake of not having their abuses discovered. It's obviously a benefit to the organization. That's human trafficking. Human trafficking is also known as trafficking in persons or for modern day slavery. It's a crime that involves compelling or coercing a person to provide labor or services or to engage in sex acts. The coercion can be subtle or overt, physical or psychological, and may involve the use of violence, threats, lies, or debt bondage. Bingo, 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 check mark. That's everything that happens in Scientology. And poor Janet is a piece of that. We're worried about the collateral damage. We're worried about her welfare. And we would ask that that all of this is taken in consideration on the CPABs. Thank you, and I yield back my time.
Next, we have Mr. Herman.
I get called by my name, but the card didn't say that, lady. Fine. Prior restraint, right? To scare me. I ain't afraid of shit no more. Well, what about this unintentional war brought by the Jujus that betrayed Donald Trump regarding Israel? What about the cult of Scientology? Fucking shut up and let me get my 30 seconds of peace, bro. That's the reason why that family came down here. Let's talk about that. Why can't the fucking DA help these people out and get them what they need so they can go back and have a peace of mind before they come back to find out the fucking lies? Is that what you want to hear, bro? Is that what you want to hear?
That's off topic too.
That has to do with the strangling, motherfucker.
Not at all.
Strangling. Fuck you. Look at number I, bitch. I. Travel authority. I know where Jimmy's going. He's going to go visit the U.S. Attorney General and rat you motherfuckers out. The same way I've been ratting you out to the FBI, you little bitch. 42 U.S.C. 1983. And the Bain Act. Don't make threats to me, you little bitch. 52.1. I have a right to be heard, regardless of my disability or my mental health or my fucking right of free speech, bitch. Now you know where I come from, nigga.
You're off topic.
So, again, look at this shit. What about Sergeant Deng? Is that off topic, motherfucker? Is that off topic, motherfucker? Answer the question either yes or no. I'm here to support the United States Attorney General. Am I a fucking topic, bitch?
Yes.
Good.
Right.
Glad you said that, bitch.
Sir, the city attorney's ruled you're off topic. Sir, get back on topic. I will terminate your public comment.
Right? What is an ICD? What is the acronym for that ICD? Make MOU. Understand. Officer involved shooting. Officer involved strangling. What is the OIS, motherfuckers? What is it? What about the so-called NTUD? What about NWA, for the record? Do you understand that, fool? I'll make you understand MOU. I'll make you understand that unintentional discharge of shooting fucking protesters that are what? The press is constitutionally protected? No. They have a label, press. Press 1, press 2. You got it now, fool? So when you interrupt my public comment, just remember, more Trump, ice, ice, ice. Trump saved your black ass in the LAPD from the rioters, you dumb bitch.
Next, we have defend the LAPD.
Good morning.
Good morning. What items would you like to speak on?
All items, please.
Okay, 3 minutes.
Thank you. Just days ago, LAPD's G&D unit responded to assist another police agency serving a warrant on a murder suspect in the Hollenbeck division. It had nothing to do with immigration enforcement, yet a hostile crowd formed requiring additional units just to safely execute the warrant. This isn't an isolated incident, it's happening more and more. People are empowered to challenge law enforcement and not cooperate. It's dangerous. Why? Because city council members, the mayor, much of the media, and now it sounds like some of you commissioners continue pushing a dangerous and dishonest narrative, falsely claiming that masked men in unmarked cars are snatching people off the streets. Let's be very clear, those are federal immigration officers. They are not hiding it, and they are not impersonating officers. They are operating fully within their legal authority to detain individuals in violation of federal law. They are allowed to drive unmarked cars, wear masks, and vests with only the words police or border patrol on them. In fact, Mexico and many other countries just south of us have state police units who operate in the same way due to officer safety concerns. Stop saying no one knows who they are. It's known they are federal officers. Some people just don't like immigration enforcement. Many in the immigrant community have been misinformed into believing that ICE or Border Patrol agents must present a judicial warrant in order to detain someone, and that's false. Immigration enforcement is a civil process, not a criminal one. ICE officers are not required to obtain a judge-signed warrant to detain someone suspected of being lawfully present. Administrative warrants are lawful under federal law. Likewise, Miranda rights and criminal due process do not apply in civil immigration cases. These protections are specific to criminal charges, and this confusion is fueling unnecessary fear and obstruction. If the city attorney and mayor won't explain it to them, the public, then LAPD should. If the public interferes with any law enforcement activity, they can and should be arrested. If they resist or cause chaos, officers, whether federal or local, are allowed to use force. And if federal agents are attacked or threatened, LAPD has a duty to respond and restore order. We're now seeing LAPD officers being followed, blocked on freeways, or harassed simply for driving unmarked cars because people assume they're ICE. This is a major officer safety threat. Meanwhile, council members like Ulysses Hernandez are trying to strip LAPD of even more non-lethal tools after already doing so in 2020. LAPD was left without key crowd control options that other agencies still use. And that needs to change. I do, however, want to commend Raul Jovel for requesting the gas, and Chief, that you approved it. Excellent call. LAPD doesn't need fewer tools, and the public needs to be properly informed, if anything, for LAPD officers' safety. Thank you.
Next, we have sidewalk.
Sidewalks here. You're gonna find out about me. Goofy. We're bombing Iran, not Iraq. All right, get that straight. So I'm super glad that you're going after Defender Vance. He's going after those Scientologists. Super glad you got a ankle monitor on him. You know who else went off after Defender Vance? Officer Torres. The person of this family that was murdered, same officer went after Defender Vance, called his probation officer in West Virginia, lied after false claims of conspiracy to possess tear gas, lies by Officer Rand in the Hollywood division, claiming that he unlawfully possessed tear gas. Tear gas and pepper spray are allowed until it is deemed that it's an unlawful protest. That's when it becomes illegal. Maybe Officer Rand in Hollywood Division could figure that the fuck out. He's kind of a fucking idiot, if you ask me. How many of you guys have been safe pointed by Scientology? Huh? Do you know how it works? They give a little money. They give you $200. Then they give you another $250. Strike Against Drugs. You guys are working with Strike Against Drugs. David, the Scientologist. It's just like the DARE program. It's easy to safe point people, though. You just give them donations. You tell them how great they are. That's how Scientology works. That's how OSA works. Defender Vance is being charged with hate crimes for saying Scientology's a cult, we could help. That's considered a fucking hate crime in LA. Amazing, huh? A red ornament falls off of a wreath that was illegally placed on a tree, and it breaks, a 10-cent ornament. He gets charged with a felony. In what fucking world? In what fucking world? How much money is Scientology paying you? I know they've given $10,000 to the Hollywood Division at their Christmas party numerous times. They got all the COVID cleanup, sanitation for all 85 precincts of the LAPD. What else has Scientology paid you guys off on? Don't allow to be safe pointed. Donations. Love bombing. Fuck yourselves.
Alexi Balara.
Good morning. I would like to begin with my sincerest condolences for the loss of Sergeant Deng. I wish his family and loved ones peace. My name is Alexi, and I'm a social worker who has been serving as a medic and mental health crisis responder during the recent protests. I have been showing up because I care deeply for this community, for our community, and because I believe that offering care in moments of crisis is not just necessary, but is our duty as human beings. And for that, I've been treated like a threat. Medics like me, clearly marked, often retreating or actively providing aid, have been shot with less lethal rounds. One of us was hit in the head with a flashbang grenade, while another was shot 3 separate times. Some are still out of work from that. At one protest, I had CS gas canisters thrown directly at my feet while I was visibly marked as a medic. I wasn't involved in any confrontation. I was standing with my kit, trying to assess someone for injuries. The gas overwhelmed my lungs, blurred my vision, and made it nearly impossible to continue rendering aid. That moment wasn't just dangerous, it was illegal. The use of CS gas in this way, especially against medical personnel, violates the Geneva Conventions. It's banned in warfare. And yet, in my home city of Los Angeles, it's being used against civilians in a public street without any warning or justification. These are not isolated mistakes, it's a pattern, and it's getting worse. Providing first aid or mental health support has become something to punish. The act of care itself is being criminalized. This should concern everyone in this room. When violence becomes so normalized that medical workers are seen as targets, we've lost sight of what public safety means. Care is not a crime. Mental health support is not a disruption. And those of us trying to reduce harm are not the ones escalating the situation. You may not agree with why we're out there, but I hope we can agree on this. No one should be shot or arrested for helping someone in pain. No one should be punished for showing up with compassion. So I'm asking this commission to act, demand a full accounting and review of LAPD's use of force incidents involving clearly identified medics, crisis responders, and reporters. I'm also urging this commission to formally call for a ban on the use of any chemical agents against the public. These weapons are dangerous, indiscriminate, and violate the rights and safety of civilians. That is the bare minimum. Accountability starts with transparency, and safety starts with restraint. I yield my time. Thank you.
Thank you.
Next, we have Frances.
Morning. Good morning, Francis. Public comment. I had prepared comments that cannot continue with after the mother and sister's comments on the unbalanced systematic statutory leverages like qualified immunity that make such overreach such as this one possible and likely and routine. To further the cause of those who've already given such powerful and eloquent comment, I yield the full remainder of my time to a full minute of silent reflection, or how much I can get of the 2 minutes and 30 seconds I have, as I blather along uselessly to compete with that, which still has left me shaken, should leave us all shaken. So I don't want to forget it. I don't think any of us should forget that moment. And I'm going to remain in however much time I have for a moment of silence for all those in this sort of pointless war on each other. Thank you. Thank you. I yield.
Thank you.
Next, we have Glenn.
First, I also want to extend my condolences to Sergeant Deng's family as someone who's had an accident on the 405 in those circumstances. It's terrifying, whether it's in the middle of rush hour or at 2 a.m., and that's a sincere condolence. And I feel for you guys in the commission, because if I had to listen to this every single week, I might look down as well, but I think it's completely disrespectful that some of you are doing that when people are up here, no matter how insane they might be. I can argue that the best of America and the worst of America happens in this 45 minutes, and I think it's ridiculous, even if somebody you disagree with, that you don't give them the full focus of their attention. Sir, I'm talking to you, Mr. Garcia. I am not being rude. I asked you to just talk to people. This is what you're here for, is to hear public comment. And not everyone here is insane, and I don't care if you disagree with me. I'm fine with whatever you do, but you don't even know what I'm saying yet, and you still don't have the respect to look at me. I didn't even come here to say that, but every single time, my 2 times, last week was my first time on Zoom, and I listened to this, and I commented, prove me wrong. And I came here originally to speak about one thing that I want you guys to prove me wrong, though, which is the Australian reporter who was shot with a rubber bullet on point blank zone. And because you guys have made me into an activist, in the last 3 weeks, you have made me into an activist by the actions of what the LAPD has done, let alone ICE, and we'll get to that in a second. I'm getting into what POBRA is. I understand what you can or can't do, but I also know you could publicly tell everybody that the officer who is in investigation that you'll take 6 months to a year to figure out what happened could be publicly reassigned, so we know that they're not facing the public and be on administrative leave, and that is not prohibited by anything that I've researched and asked about 10 other lawyers about. So that would be something you could do to just reestablish public trust. And Chief McDonald, last week, I remember you going through, and some of the commissioners here today also spoke about what your duty is to, when things come out with ICE, when there are these raids, when it's protecting property. I understand that. I realize that job is difficult. But the reason why there's no trust is there's also a gaslighting going on. I'm going to give you a thing that yesterday if this meeting happened, you couldn't tell me, I couldn't even bring up. I live in Playa Vista. You guys can get familiar with my face. I'm not even hiding. My name's Glenn. I'll tell you where I live. I'm not hiding. Get used to my face. Because my face is here because I'm a white male that is not a victim of any of these things that are going on, and somebody needs to speak up for these people across this city and across this country. Yesterday in Playa Vista, in one of the now, we all know what a Home Depot raid looks like, we saw LAPD miraculously arrive at the same time that that ICE was going after that Home Depot and taking away the guy I've met for 5 years and eat tacos from his stand every single day. And I know I'm running out of time, but for everyone saying they're all criminals, Cato Institute released a study 3 days ago. 93% of the people that ICE is going after, that LAPD is trying to help facilitate, have no violent arrests, and 65% of them have had 0 criminal arrests whatsoever. So the whole thing that they're all felons is ridiculous. You guys better get your shit together.
Thank you.
Jonathan Foster.
Jonathan Foster. Deng, man. I heard that Shu Deng was quite a funny guy. Well, it cost $32 million of the LAPD. This is why I tried to run for president. I was a P600222068. In 2016, I ran against Donald John Trump because he's stupid. I'm 100 times smarter than Dum Dum is. So, but I didn't win. So this is what we got. This morning there was a blue jay out front. It was swooping down and ran 2 crows out of here. The blue jay lives in the trees out front. So obviously I've got a bunch of things to say, right? So I was gonna say something I said over a year ago, as that coming down here is just a waste of time. What I say only goes to you. It does not go to 8,000 officers that do the job. And then if they listened to what I said, would they act upon it? And they're probably not getting into something and going, oh, Jonathan, that guy, I better do what he said. They're not going to do that, right? So I wasted 6 years of Tuesdays coming down here. It's been a waste of my life to come down here because the people that really need to hear what is said on this microphone never hears it. The city charter doesn't change. Qualified immunity doesn't change. So I've wasted my life coming down here. My dad and my mother wasted their life serving this family, 76 nonstop consecutive years of service to the Army and the VA, and it was a waste because this guy can just choke somebody. Waukesha Wilson can die in custody death. They can just gun down Yang Yang, Wilver Blanco, you name it. I'm sorry that Deng died. I'm sorry that the guy in a Rancho or a Huntington Park got shot. Stuff like this. I mean, I don't want to hear anybody, but I've wasted my life down here thinking. I am under an impression that if I come down and put my heart into this, that I could affect a change. And I have found out that I am a lie. No one listens to, that what I have said is taken as lies. Nobody listens to what I said. Every effort that I've put in has been a waste. Nobody cares about me. No, all the good things that I've said, no one acts upon. Nothing changes. The people with millions of dollars who are lawyers don't change the city charter. So everything I've said, I should just go jump off the 6th Street Bridge because nobody cares about what I said. my effort is not acted upon. Nobody cares about any good thing that I said that would change anything, that would make it.
Christina Flores.
Good morning, Commissioners and Chief McDonald. My name is Christina Flores, Senior Legislative Deputy to Councilwoman Monica Rodriguez. Councilwoman Rodriguez submitted a letter to the Commission yesterday highlighting her concerns about the disturbing and unprecedented attacks by federal immigration authorities, particularly those who operate in plain clothes, wear masks, and drive unmarked vehicles. The Councilwoman is urging the Board of Police Commissioners, as the policy-making body of the Los Angeles Police Department, to take immediate action and ask the Chief of Police to develop protocols ensuring officers are instructed how to determine whether federal operations are in violation of legal requirements and how to request valid federal identification from ICE agents. Furthermore, the Councilwoman is requesting that the department equitably pre-deploy LAPD resources to protect residents in high-profile targeted neighborhoods that are facing these attacks. Thank you so much for your consideration.
Thank you.
Next, we have Quinn.
So speaking of LAPD and ICE, you have a whole report today on various technologies that you use to gauge their efficacy and allow this supposed regulatory body to approve or disapprove. It's no shock that this is rife with contradictions and lies, but even if we were to use your narrative from your report, your own shit exposes how you use these technologies to hunt, track, and surveil people within a pipeline to deportation. Let's take your automatic license plate readers, for example, which we've already proven have been used to facilitate mass deportations. But in your own report, you say that LAPD has a relationship with Flock Safety Vigilant Solutions and Axon to gather and collect data tracking people's locations and movements. Some stats for you. LAPD detected over 1,132,441,520 license plates in 2024 alone, of which 301,655 resulted in hits, wanted vehicles, stolen cars, cars of undocumented folks, or other folks that you deem criminal. This means that 1,132,139,865 ALPR reads were just tracking completely unrelated vehicles. No one who had done a crime. In LA, there's roughly 2.5 million registered vehicles, which means that that's over 450 hits per vehicle per year. That means that more than once a day, LAPD, ICE, and DHS have hits for every vehicle in Los Angeles, no matter what crimes they've committed. And then you have a whole section on efficacy. And after all of those stats, this body reviewed that there were, quote, no concerns identified. The 159,323 ALPR queries conducted by LAPD in 2024 exemplify real-time license plate scanning and retroactive data queries and how they work hand in hand to enable both proactive and retroactive tracking and targeting. The inquiries were not limited to LAPD, but they can be conducted by a wide array of partner agencies, further expanding the city's information sharing environment. And together, these practices confirm that the layered and distributed nature of the stalker state, where data is constantly collected, queried, and weaponized across agencies to criminalize people preemptively. And beyond that, a family came in today, Anthony Sowell's family, and they were here again fighting for their brother, and you want to continue to have closed meetings. You want to continue to hide the fact that your negligence and your disregard for his life were so apparent. But Anthony was someone's son, someone's brother, someone's sibling, and your oversight here is just another way for you to watch your pigs to facilitate murder. Fuck you, I yield the rest of my time.
Grace.
What you're discussing today is not just a report, it is a roadmap of repression. It is a window into the digital carceral state that the LAPD is engineering with your permission. This so-called annual technology report is not transparency, it's state theater, a shallow attempt to appear honest, while LAPD continues building a dragnet of mass surveillance, data extraction, and predictive policing. This is about making suspicion scalable and criminalization frictionless. Let's talk about what's really happening. Like Quinn already said, in 2024 alone, LAPD scanned over 1 billion license plates, more than 1 billion images of movement, location, and proximity. And only 301,000 of those were what you call quote unquote hits, meaning 99.97% of that data was just tracking everyday people, like they already said, doing nothing but driving. That is mass surveillance. And what you're greenlighting is a totalizing system. ALPR for mass movement tracking, Wooster and Scope now for social and behavioral surveillance, Penlink for scraping anonymized online data, drones for aerial spying, and peregrine technologies, which you don't even include in this report, for live pattern recognition and predictive deployment. Together, these technologies form an integrated web. This is not about isolated tools. It is about the consolidation of every facet of our lives into data that can be then queried, flagged, and shared across agencies. And don't insult us by saying this data is only used and owned by LAPD. The data collected will be funneled into federal databases and fusion centers like the Joint Regional Intelligence Center, where it will be shared with agencies like ICE, the FBI, and CBP. And this is how the stalker state works, through layered, distributed access. This is not just a surveillance program. This is an infrastructure of harm built deliberately to ensnare Black, brown, undocumented, disabled, and poor communities. And this is the architecture of the stalker state, one where every single movement becomes data, one where every data point then becomes suspicion, and every person becomes trackable across space and time. That's not safety. That is predictive policing dressed up in bureaucratic language, and that is an empire of suspicion that criminalizes people before they've ever even acted. And to Anthony Solo's family, LAPD may not have been the direct murderers this time, but they still handcuffed Anthony's lifeless body before they administered aid. And we've asked you this before, but how do you sit here time and time again, families coming here week after week, begging you to care, to give them even a sliver of information for closure, and you just sit here in silence? You can hear their screams outside the door and you don't care. You can't offer them even a message of consolidation. You just tell them to go talk to another pig as if they'll give them even any useful information. It's shame, and that these deaths are still on your hands because you allow this policing to continue to function. You strengthen this policing. You give them the tools to be able to murder. And so that blood is still on your hands and you don't care.
Hamid Khan.
And this is how we will keep on exposing you, and this is how we'll keep on disrupting you. So with this comprehensive technology report, let's talk about the background, how we got here itself. In 2022, the LAPD recruited a police consultant from Oakland. His name is Brian Hofer. And when we filed for public records and got all the emails between Brian Hofer and the LAPD, what we identified was that when they made this proposal of, first of all, having a community police advisory board over information technology, over 30 organizations in Los Angeles joined hands and completely rejected that. That didn't happen. We rejected this establishment of just this supposedly having guardrails and oversight because we know that's a fraud. So we found in these emails, Jim McMahon, who's the now deputy chief or something, and his deputy at that time, sending an email, and we have published those emails directly to Brian Hofer, that the chief wants a community representative in this presentation to approve this whole process. Now imagine that a person from Oakland who's a police consultant is being recruited where the people of Los Angeles have completely rejected that. Rasha Shields, we sent all of that information to the police commission that this is a conspiracy. This is about manufacturing consent. This is how you are now bringing somebody from Oakland to represent the people of Los Angeles. That in what fucking world is that a people's oversight? In what world is that people's oversight? So what we have is now a memo. Thank you to Stop LAPD Spying Coalition. I know I'm a part of that thing, that we are the people that we keep them on their toes, and we keep on exposing their bullshit. Because we've had to sue the city 16 times over the last 8 years to get all these public records. They have not released those public records on Peregrine. They have not released public records on flock safety to us. However, that is being exposed. Over 1 billion detections of license plate readers. Where is that information going? That's why we call it the stalker state. That's why we call it that how you monitor, trace, follow, stalk, and harm people. A video was just released about an hour ago of 9th in Los Angeles, where the LAPD is protecting ICE agents, masked ICE individuals, and see that on your Instagram post or your social media later. Right now, as we were coming in here, a video was released on 9th in Los Angeles that how they're kidnapping and snatching, and they're right there. Talk about the fucking myth of Sanctuary City. Talk about that the city of Los Angeles will not provide personnel or resources in civil immigration enforcement when you have these masked people coming in and kidnapping them right there. What about those videos from the west side yesterday from Westwood? That LAPD is going in there, shaking hands very warmly.
Thank you.
And all of that shit. So bullshit, we'll keep on exposing and disrupting because this shit will go.
Aiden?
Contrary to what you pigs preach every week, in this city where I was born and raised, the status quo has always included violent repression of constitutionally protected protests by city, state, and federal agencies, forced disappearances of Angelenos, including U.S. citizens and immigrants here legally. What's less familiar is these things being done by unidentified bounty hunters instead of the LAPD. These rapidly escalating violations of due process, including warrantless searches and arrests, unchecked police violence, and attacks on and arrests of journalists trying to report the situation on the ground, are unacceptable. Even as we have been in this meeting, like Hamid just said, your little oinkers have been assisting their fascist brethren at 9th and Spring, a few blocks from where you lie every week about not assisting ICE. I have heard police sirens and helicopters at all hours of the day and night. I have watched people being dragged out of their homes, jobs, and places of worship and thrown into cages like animals in the federal building that your pigs protect. I have watched police shoot, beat, gas, trample, and arrest my fellow Angelenos. Your pigs are firing lethal munitions, poison gas, and trampling citizens under no known rules of engagement. These abuses of force are happening at such a rate that even with your many cameras and superficial oversight committees, you don't know what is happening on the ground, and you cannot control it. I know you're paid not to care, and maybe not even to pay attention. Where was I? But this lack of accountability has already cost our city $29.5 million as of 4 days ago. This doesn't take into account the many legitimate civil cases that your pig lawyers will settle as quietly as their cloven hooves will allow for untold more hundreds of millions in taxpayer money. But the pigs are hungry, and they want even more money. They want to fly. Helicopters were not enough. Even more tools for oppression and surveillance. You want drones. More surveillance in the hands of police is inherently harmful because the police have a vested interest in protecting themselves and their concerns, as members of this community have demonstrated time and time again, as they have been ignored by this commission. Over 1 billion hits, over 1 billion of them useless. Anthony Orendorff jailed for a whole weekend and not charged, just for reporting what masked, unknown entities are doing in your city that you claim to protect. This kind of technology and the things that predated it have been and will continue to be used by this council and the LAPD to further criminalize and marginalize communities who are already the primary targets of state violence. Among them, LGBTQ people, happy Pride, immigrants, fuck ICE, and anyone at odds with the racist, capitalist, imperialist patriarchy. The real legacy of the LAPD in this council as it relates to Pride is doxing and publicly shaming LGBTQ plus people, targeted police surveillance and harassment of gay spaces, and the bodies of radicalized and cis-heteronormative criminalization of sex work, to name a few.
Mr. President, that was our final speaker.
Thank you. The commission will recess for 10 minutes. We'll return at 11:05. Thank you. Consent agenda items. We have items 3A through J today. I'm going to pull A and 3I as much as the chief is here, is not something that we'll decide as well. So having said that, if there are any other comments or questions on any other agenda items? No. Excellent. So I move that we approve items B through J, except I. Is there a second?
Second.
Moved and seconded. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Motion carries. Thank you very much. Item 3A is Department's report relative to the 10th Amendment to the LA City contract between City of Los Angeles and the County Metropolitan Transportation Authority. And Vice President Shields, the floor is yours.
Yes, thank you. President Southers, I will recuse myself from this matter, so I'll step outside and come back after the decision is made.
Okay, Chief Chow, good morning.
Good morning.
And there may not be any questions. The matter was pulled because Vice President Shields has to recuse herself. So I'll open the floor to my fellow commissioners for any comments or questions. Commissioner Garcia?
None, thank you.
Commissioner Sanchez Gordon? I don't have any questions. Okay, Chief, looks like you're off the hook.
Okay, thank you. See you in a bit.
I move that we approve the recommendation for board action for item 3A. Is there a second?
Second.
Moved and seconded. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Motion carries. Thank you very much. If someone would let Commissioner Shields know, she may re-enter the room. We will move on to item number 4, regular agenda items. And item 4A is a verbal presentation relative to Pride Month. Welcome, everyone. If you would come to the table, identify yourselves, and the floor is yours.
Thank you very much. Good morning, Commissioners, Executive Director, Chief Inspector General, and Council. I am Captain Curtis McIntyre, Commanding Officer, Diversity, Equity, and Inclusion Division, here to recognize the department's LGBTQ plus sworn and civilian personnel for their contributions. This organization has not been around for long, but their mission has, advocating for inclusion, equity, and awareness. With me today is Sergeant Jules Sohn, President of the Los Angeles County Officers Pride Society, also known as LA Cops, and Senior Lead Officer Cindy Wada is also a member of LA Cops. And I will turn it over to them for the presentation.
Good morning, everyone. Thank you so much for bringing us forward to do this presentation. It has been quite a month and quite a year. And I wanted to especially thank the commissioners for the work that you do. I've had the privilege of sitting through many police commission meetings, and I appreciate that you are volunteers and you do a lot to keep us, on track. And also, many of you in front of us and in this room are allies to our community, and so we deeply appreciate that. I wanted to acknowledge that this year's Pride, so LA Pride is sponsored by Christopher Street West, and their theme was Pride Marches On, and I think this is truly what this year has been about, is about resilience, grit, and being able to understand that there are many challenges that our community faces, and that we will continue to do the work to make and to support not only our members, but the folks that are within our community. And we welcome everybody, so regardless of what identities you have, we are all law enforcement professionals, civilian and sworn, and we're extremely proud to wear the uniform, regardless of which agency. So I want to acknowledge that our vice president is here. For our board is Sheriff Sergeant Keith Ho. He's our vice president. We also have Commander Shannon Paulson, who is on our board of directors, as well as we have the first openly gay LAPD LGBTQ liaison, Lisa Phillips. She's a retired sergeant too, who was appointed back in 1996. And so we bring not only our current, so Cindy Watt is our current LGBTQ liaison, but we also bring the first openly gay one here as well. And so with that, we wanted to keep this short and sweet, kind of like me. No, just kidding. And light, right? Because we need some lightness, right? And so here is some photos from different parts of like Pride. We've done so many different Pride events. Cindy has been a partner in this as well. And so some of them look familiar, some familiar faces as well. And so really, we are so lucky to be able to be out and proud and represent the department in all of its diversity. And so we like to kind of showcase some of the work that we've done. And you know, there's a bit of a meta theme here with Commander Paulson being in front of her own photo with the Pride panels. So we like to give that a shout out to her. I think this is really the theme for this year is Harvey Milk is Navy veteran, LGBTQ icon, one of the first openly gay politicians in the country, who said hope will never be silent. And I think that's really what this year is really about, is realizing that regardless of what happens, we will continue to do the work. And with that, let's talk a little bit about LA Cops Pride and how we became who we are and where we came from. And this is part of the reason why Lisa is here as well, is that there were different iterations of LAPD LGBTQ affinity groups. And so Pride Behind the Badge was really the originator of what we are and who we are today. And so, and part of that fight was about getting, you know, domestic partnership benefits for folks who are part of the LGBTQ community within the LAPD as well as the city. And so one of the things that I always think about is, you know, how do we internally treat ourselves really impacts how we treat other people externally, right? It matters how we treat our own LAPD, LA sheriffs, law enforcement family, and how we treat the community. And we really need to meet community where they're at. And man, like right now, we're seeing that in a very big way. We see part of it here in these meetings, but we see that out in the department and in the community. And really, we have to collaborate with everybody, like all hands on deck to do the work, right? And really, you know, I will give a shout out to Captain McIntyre, who's also a member of the LA Cops. I think he's a member of most of the affinity groups, as am I, but I wanted to give a shout out to him as an ally. You know, I think it's very important that we work together. And so we were formed as a nonprofit just after the Pride presentation back in 2023. And so, we're a very new organization in the sense of that our nonprofit status. And so that's kind of the background for who we are. And this is our mission. The QR code does go to our website. I know it's kind of, I made it very large so you can like scan it, but our mission is pretty simple. It's basically to build a stronger and more equitable society, meeting our LGBTQ plus and allied members' needs. So we have gay, straight, LGBTQ. We have a lot of parents of LGBTQ youth in our ranks. A lot of my allied friends are a part of the organization, and so for us, we are open to everybody, and we really feel very lucky to have such a wide umbrella of people and support. And so when we talk about our needs, these are the functional areas in which we do our work. So we do networking, education through training, employee assistance, career development, as well as support. And so one of the things that I notice about our community as a whole is that certain affinity groups do really well in certain areas, right? Like right now, I'm going to give a shout out to LAPOA. They're going to do a career development seminar regarding the detectives' problem-solving essay portion. And so we've done some work in that area, but we realize that we have to see where our members are at. And really, it goes back to networking and support and employee assistance. So that's kind of what we've seen in our work. And so one of the things that we're doing is on July 12th, we're going to have a hike to Griffith Park, and it's open to everybody. And we actually posted our information on the lands, and to have people connect with community. And so that's one piece of it. And also bringing forward the stories of folks that have led the way. And so actually this Thursday, we have a Zoom seminar with Lisa Phillips at 6 p.m. So we posted this on the lands as well, where for an hour of her time, she gets to share her perspective on what we've done as a community since 1996, actually before 1996. She was one of the first officers to march in Pride in uniform, and till today. And so we definitely welcome folks to be a part of that. So we're very excited about that piece. But yeah, and the other thing that I like to talk about is that we kind of piggybacked on the work of the LGBTQ liaisons. Since Pride Behind the Badge and to today, 2023, the LGBTQ liaison did a lot of the work in terms of employee assistance, recruitment, all these other things, mentorship that an affinity group kind of steps into. And so I'm going to pass the baton over to Cindy to speak to how the LA Cops Pride collaborates with the LGBTQ liaison and outreach.
All right, good morning. Thank you for having us here. Yeah, in terms of training and a lot of the outreach that we do get a lot of officers now from LA Cops who are becoming part of the training cadre. So it's exciting for us because I remember when I started with Sergeant Sohn, as a small pool of us being willing to step up and do the teaching. And so now we have more officers, younger officers on the department with different amount of time on, different background and experience to help do that. Officer Rodriguez is up there. He's one of the instructors. But I think this is something that I wish we had 16 years ago, even just from myself coming on. We did have this conversation, and while it's important to have that conversation, I think the big thing with our training is why are we having that conversation? And just explaining to recruits that you're going to experience the city with everything and all the communities that we share, but why are we interacting with the LGBTQ community, specifically a large portion of LGBTQ youth who are experiencing homelessness and what that looks like and how important those interactions are, especially as that initial first responder arriving at scene, and that level of respect and dignity you can give someone to really set the tone as far as interaction and then future collaboration. Some of the community engagement things that we've been able to participate in just recently within this past year, we were asked to be part of a Building Trust Summit with Sergeant Keith Ho and some of the trans community members, and to be a part of a panel and to understand, our policy procedure and how that, affects the trans community as a whole. And then also we did an espresso yourself, coffee and community conversations over at our LAPD Academy. And we did have a panelist, Sergeant Stone was on it, but also some community members, and just explaining, what it was like coming out. And everyone has their different experiences and different stories. And I think to bring community and law enforcement together to show that despite maybe our differences in appearance, right, with the uniform on and everything, that we're all very similar underneath that. And none of that would be possible without the work of, past liaisons, Sergeant Stone included, and Lisa Phillips. And so for me to learn about the history of this department, its interaction with community, but also as someone from the LGBTQ community who wears this uniform proudly, it's been a very impactful position, and I love to see where we go in the future with that.
And so I'd like to conclude with this quote because I think this is also very appropriate for the time. So Audre Lorde was not only a civil rights icon, feminist, queer activist, but she was also an expert on intersectionality. And so she said, "We are powerful because we have survived, and that is what it is all about, survival and growth." And so that is the way forward for us in terms of continuing to do the work. And so with that, because I promised to keep this short and sweet, we wish you all a safe and wonderful Pride. And are there any questions?
Well, first, as we say each year, thank you very much for all the work that you do, and thank you for bringing us up to speed with what's going on. I'm sure that I speak for my fellow commissioners when I say we love coming to your events. We'd like to know when they're going to be held, and if there's any way we can support and enhance your efforts, please do not hesitate to reach out to all of us. I'm just going to open the floor to my fellow commissioners. Vice President Shields.
Thank you for the great presentation. Very well done. And I'll say that LA Cops Pride may be young, but it is mighty. So you all have accomplished a lot in a short amount of time. So very impressive. And I will say that, I think the department really owes you all a debt of gratitude for not only hopefully you're also helping with recruiting, but also training the new recruits and also building bridges with a community that understandably is often scared of law enforcement. And so your work helps officers actually respond in the way that they're supposed to respond to the community. And so thank you so much for both the presentation and the work that you all are doing. And as President Southers said, if there's any way that we can help support, we're here. And this is all about creating an inclusive department so that everyone comes to work feeling like they belong here. And so thank you for being that bright spot that helps them accomplish that goal.
Okay, thank you. Commissioner Garcia.
Thank you for the presentation, and thank you for all the work that you all are doing and have done, especially as we hear of firsts and folks putting themselves out there at times when it may be uncomfortable and unpopular. But as we have seen and as history has shown us, it is important, and it is something that whether you are able to benefit from those efforts or generations after you are things that should be supported and be admired, and I admire the bravery of that. And so thank you for the language that you introduce, for the support, for creating this department, a more inclusive department. And with all that comes culture, and at times culture and policy. Sometimes culture is more important or just as important. So appreciate you all for doing that for the department. Thank you.
Thank you. Commissioner Sanchez-Gordon.
I like that. All I can say is I strongly second the comments of my colleagues, and not to be repetitive, I just congratulate all of you and thank you.
So thank you. And again, I would invite your colleagues who are here today. Thank you for being here. If you'd like to come to the table and speak, please do. And Sarge, I say this every year, love the patch.
What patch?
Oh.
Sheriff.
Okay. All right. And with that, again, thank you very much for the presentation. We'll now move on to agenda item 4B, which is the department's report relative to the 2024 Annual Comprehensive Technology Report. I believe we've got Commander Curtin, Captain Williams, and Captain Espinoza. Good morning. And Commander, the floor is yours when you're ready.
Good morning. As stated, I'm Anthony Espinoza, Commanding Officer of our Innovation Management Division. We are here today to talk about the Comprehensive Technology Report for 2024. This is a similar report to last year where it is the same 4 technologies that we reported on last year. Those 4 technologies are automated license plate recognition, Wooster, Scope Now, and PinLinks Tangles. I'll provide a brief explanation of the 4 technologies and summarize the relevant points of the report. For automated license plate recognition, it's a searchable computerized database resulting from the operation of mobile or fixed cameras combined with computer algorithms to read and convert images of license plate characters into computer-readable data. ALPR cameras do not collect, store, or share personally identifiable information. Department personnel need to log into a separate database to view information on vehicles' registered owners. Wooster is an investigative database and software platform that uses search technology with publicly available information and private data sources to obtain information on persons of interest. This information includes the names, phone numbers, addresses, and emails. End users query this information for criminal investigations. Wooster is not limited to law enforcement and is available to the private sector. Scope Now. This is an analytical search engine that uses social media, deep web, and dark web data to help an investigation into a person or business. Scope Now is also available to the private sector. Pinlink's Tangles is a web-based platform that searches for and analyzes open-source information, publicly available information, and commercially available anonymized data. Searches using the technology are for criminal investigations and public safety threats. Once a technology produces relevant results, they are filtered through and vetted for their definitive relevance. Pinlink is also available to the private sector. Innovation Management Division assessed the 4 technologies and reports that the technologies meet the expectations of the department and the Board of Police Commissioners. The technologies align with the department's policies and procedures, and all end users receive training and conduct searches on the right-to-know, need-to-know basis. As far as frequency of the technology's use, ALPR had 159,326 queries. Wooster had 11,763, and Scope Now had 412. Pinlink had 1,900. As for the efficacy of the technology, all 4 technologies are extremely valuable to the department because the man-hours saved by not having to engage in a manual search process. ALPR has helped with locating missing and wanted vehicles. Wooster, Scope Now, and Pinlink have aided in the successful identification and apprehension of many felony suspects. As far as compliance by the end users, Special Order 31 for ALPR, dated December 10, 2020, ensures that the capture, use, retention, and dissemination of information through ALPR systems is guided by California Senate Bill 34 and SB 54, the California Values Requirements. Access to ALPR queries require data training or department training and notifications to the department system administrator. The system administrator verifies training was completed, then grants access. The system administrator inspects the software monthly to purge users who have separated from the department. The software automatically purges users with non-activity after 365 days. Scope Now, Wooster, and Pinlink administrators can inspect all search queries by an end user. The software licenses are used by a small number of investigators and are limited to criminal investigations following the right-to-know, need-to-know standard. As far as cost-benefit analysis, providing those details is challenging as quantifying the outcomes and hourly cost savings of every use case is not possible. We continue to search for ways to automate this process through discussions with vendors and outside agency subject matter experts. We do know that these software programs remove the manual search process for the end users and save time. We did not identify any software platform concerns. Vendors have adapted their software user interface to meet the department standards. Existing training, policy, and guides and manuals provide the department end users with the knowledge needed to complete their tasks. Department technology partners will provide added training upon request. In closing, modern law enforcement agencies stand at a critical crossroads where the imperative to protect and serve communities must be carefully balanced with the fundamental constitutional rights of the citizens we pledge to safeguard. The integration of advanced technologies offers unprecedented opportunities to enhance public safety. However, this technological evolution must continue with unwavering respect for the privacy rights and civil liberties that form the bedrock of a democratic society. Police departments that successfully navigate this balance will not only be more effective in their mission, but will also support the essential trust and cooperation of the communities we serve. The path forward requires transparency, as provided with the 2024 Comprehensive Technology Report, ensuring that the pursuit of the safety never comes at the expense of the freedoms that make our communities worth protecting. And that concludes our report.
Thank you, Captain. And if I could just echo your last comment, which I think is most important. As I look at each year, all of the categories that you review, I think the most important one is item number 8 under other related matters as it relates to data retention, data security, privacy, civil rights and civil liberties, and inspections and audits. And that certainly lends credence to the accountability and transparency that we're committed to. The only question I would have for you is, it seems that in the 4 technologies you've outlined, Scope Now gets the least amount of usage or the least amount of queries. Is there a thought that we would not use that? Is there something better? Or are we ever thinking about replacing one of these 4 with something else as we move along? Because technology probably changes every day.
Understood, sir.
Good morning, Commissioner. Captain Scott Williams, RHD. So Scope Now is a very specific tool in that it scours the deep web and social media for investigative leads. So it's not as broad a scope of query as some of the other technologies are, and it is quite expensive. However, it has proven to be a very valuable tool in those limited circumstances in which we've used it.
Thank you, that helps a lot. I don't have any other further questions or comments. I'll open the floor to my fellow commissioners. Vice President Shields.
Thank you, and thank you for the report. I had a couple of questions. One clarification, I think you've covered it, but for Wooster, Spoke Now, and Penn Links, are these things that are all available in the private sector?
Yes.
I tend to think that if the private sector has it, the department should have it as well. And just as a rule of thumb, and if there are other pieces of technology out there that are also available in the private sector, that is something that the department thinks they need, I would encourage you to seek it out. But if others are able to benefit from it, and it will speed up the process of the department, given especially being as small as we are in comparison to where we were, I'm fully supportive of that. With regards to the ALPR items, does this cover all of the ALPRs, including the ones that come through? We've had several that have come through on, donations and things like that. Is the total number of ALPRs currently running reflected in this report?
This report reflects 2024. Many of those donations came through 2025, so next year's report will be included with those.
Wonderful. Okay, thank you for that. Understood. And I touched on this last week when we had ALPRs, but just wanted to again confirm that ALPR is not being used in any way to share information with ICE relating to civil immigration. Is that fair to say?
Correct. We're following state law.
And you're able to, when you're doing the inspections and things, look at what is the purpose designated for every search that is done. Is that right?
Yes, that is correct.
I would, potentially recommend to the Inspector General's office for a future, when you're thinking about topics to look at for independent auditing, this might be an area to just kind of double check and help verify that that is all being done accurately.
Good morning, ma'am. Captain Curtin from Major Crimes Division. An audit was completed in March of this year to ensure that we are in compliance.
Wonderful. And that was conducted by the Audit Division?
It was completed by Robbery Homicide Division.
Robbery Homicide.
Yes, ma'am. We conduct annual audits of each of the three technologies that we're responsible for. That would be Wooster, Scope Now, and Tangles. Those are done, again, on an annual basis. I have some just basic numbers of our audit results from 2024. So like Captain Espinoza had mentioned, Wooster, we had around 17,000 uses between RHD and South Bureau Homicide. 19% of all uses by RHD were audited, and only one deficiency was noticed during that audit. And it was just a matter of not putting in a trackable, identifiable number for a case number. So remedial training is provided to that user. It's tracked so that if there are additional deficiencies in the future, we may consider suspending that user's ability to use the system. South Bureau Homicide had no deficiencies, though there was one system issue that was identified that we addressed with Wooster, and they were able to fix that for us. Scope Now, again, only 412 queries for the year. We audited about 14% of those and found no deficiencies, though we continue training on what's expected of the end users in those technologies. And PennLink, 1,900 queries, 0 deficiencies noted in our audit.
Wonderful. Thank you.
No problem.
Thank you. Commissioner Garcia?
No questions. Thank you for the report.
Thank you. Commissioner Sanchez-Gordon?
Yes, just a couple of questions. As you all know, during public comment, we always have questions concerns, statements regarding ALPR and specifically on data, collecting the data and data sharing. And you indicated, Detective or Captain Espinosa, that when asked about that, you said that you follow state law where you're not sharing that information specifically as it pertains to federal agencies. Is that correct?
Yes.
Okay, well, what about federal law?
Federal, state, local. The only departments that we share for are those that we have agreements with, and there's 5 agencies within California.
Okay, so if I decipher that language that you just told me now, that response, does that mean that if the feds want to obtain that data, they can just input in the computer and bingo, it's there?
No, it is not. We own the data. LAPD owns all of our data. With those agreements, we're able to share those with those 5 agencies that we have. In those agreements, we can pull any of the MOUs that we have if they violate that agreement. And within that agreement, it says that each agency cannot share with an outside agency. So if it's between us and a sheriff's department, it stops there. They can't share that with a third party. It has to stay within those agreed upon agencies.
So what safeguards are there between those agencies that you work with to not share? I mean, what guarantees are there that, okay, LAPD's not sharing, maybe the sheriffs are not sharing, but is, another law enforcement agency sharing?
Within California,
Can they?
Within California, each agency is bound by the Senate Bill 34 and 54. So those standards would hold them accountable. I would say that would be a violation, and we could pull that order. Is anything possible? Yes. Could someone do something that they're not allowed to or supposed to? Happens on a regular basis in every profession. But we do our best to operate within the standards that we're given.
Okay. All right, thank you.
Thank you. If there are no further questions or comments, I move that we adopt the recommendation for board action for the annual comprehensive technology report. Is there a second?
Second.
Moved and second. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Motion carries. Thank you all very much. We'll now move on to a regular agenda item number 4C, which is the department's report relative to the publication of use of force tactics directives, renamed and revised. And we have Dr. Datro. Good morning, sir. Sarge, good morning. And the floor is yours.
Good morning. Is that good? I just want to take a moment just to introduce myself to everyone. So, Tom Datcher, I'm the new Director of Police Training and Education. I look forward to meeting with each of you in the near future, getting on your calendar and just discussing the future of police training and education within the department. I'm going to hand it over to my subject matter expert on this topic, Sergeant Owen Parker.
Thank you, Dr. Datro. So we have 2 items today, manual revisions that came down. The first is relating to the Tactics Training Review Committee, which creates, modifies, reviews, and is the department record keeper for training documentation for the department. The TTRC was formalized in 2007 and was organized to bring best practices in tactics, firearms, use of force policy, and training to the recruit and in-service training curricula. The primary responsibilities of the TTRC include researching projects, providing advice to the chief of police, providing training recommendations, and then reviewing and approving changes to existing tactics and/or firearms training prior to implementation. The committee was originally comprised of members from recruit training, in-service training, tactics, firearms, and then police training and education, as well as risk management. Over the years, as the committee's needs changed with policing. Representatives were added from the Police Protective League, the City Attorney's Office, the Office of the Inspector General, and Critical Incident Review Division. Specifically today, for the revisions, the additional importance of the Office of Constitutional Policing and Policy to provide review and guidance for training documentation means that we are submitting that they be added to the committee. What this also does is it allows Risk Management and Legal Affairs Division to have an autonomous vote as they're under the Office of Constitutional Policing and Policy. So that's the Tactics Training Review Committee modification. The second part of the manual revision has to do with the training documentation as published out of the TTRC. First, our use of force directives, we separated those. It used to be use of force tactics directives. We've bifurcated those so that there is one use of force directive, which is specific for employees on an application of policy. The other part is the addition of something called the tactical concepts, tactics training overviews. This allows us to express what we provide in training to the department and specifically to field officers as basically reference guides for when they're using tactics in the field. And the last part of it is not changing, is training bulletins, but we're starting to get a little bit inconsistent with how things were put out. And what this allows us to do is keep training bulletins to general and relative information, tactics in its own bucket, and then use of force in its own bucket as well. And those are the changes that we're submitting today.
Okay, well, thank you, gentlemen, and Dr. Detra, welcome aboard. Looking forward to working with you. The only question I have is as it relates to bulletins. Are there bulletins that go out annually on certain subjects? Is there a post requirement for any of our bulletins is what I'm asking. I'm just trying to make sure that there are certain things that come up throughout the year that we want to make sure are reinforced. What's that collection of bulletins look like?
Okay, so there's a couple of different aspects to that. The first is we do have training bulletins. We will put those out regularly. We strive to update them every 5 years so that they stay refreshed, they stay current. When that happens, when we update any of our use of force directives, training bulletins, or tactics training overviews, we automatically put them in an officer's e-learning queue. Officers are audited annually to make sure through their training coordinators that they're completing all of those. So that's the first way we put it out. If there's something like tactical de-escalation, something like that, that, as you're saying, needs to be refreshed, we'll put that in the roll call training calendar several times a year so that when field officers in roll call training, it stimulates discussion. They can talk about current incidents, things like that. For example, this next month, we have the 4th of July, so we have our fireworks mitigation program. We'll be putting that out for an entire week straight in a roll call training program, as an example.
We can talk offline, but specifically, I'd like to talk to you about our hate crime training and hate incident information.
Okay.
There's a post video that's out now. It's 10 minutes, and that's something that I would like to see everybody have to take a look at least once, if not annually, but at least once, because it's very important. I want to applaud the department because I believe we're one of the few departments in the states that's actually taking hate incident reports, and we really appreciate that. Unfortunately, it's increasing, and it's important that our officers understand what they are as well as the public. And by the way, that video, although it's done by post, it is a video that can be shared with the public in order to educate them and make them more aware as well. So thank you.
Okay, thank you for that, and we will work with our department hate crimes coordinator. Normally what we'll do with the video is we'll incorporate it into an e-learning, so if there's any department-specific policy, officers are able to view that too, and that goes all to their electronic learning in our learning management system, that same queue that they have to work off of and complete every year.
Great, thank you. As an aside, one of our sergeants is featured in that video, so it's another reason to watch it. Okay, so I will defer to my fellow commissioners for any comments or questions. Vice President Shields.
Thank you. And I do like the addition of making sure that the chief of police or their designee approves everything that goes out so that there is no kind of miscommunication or difference in treatment. Is there an easy way for officers to find all of the different things, right? Because there can be, here's the policy, here's a directive, here's a bulletin. But like if I'm an officer, how do I know, hey, I'm going to go out to a protest tomorrow. What is everything I need to know? Is that kind of like easily packaged for them?
It's yes, but by training document type. So if they want, say, the 40 millimeter, They have access to the department SharePoint, which they have all of these documents are accessible through there to anyone inside the department. As far as online, just generally, they're also available there on the lapd.online website, but they're not as searchable as the internal SharePoint site.
Yeah, I would say anything, because there can be so many different things that kind of build upon each other, making it as simple for officers to get to what they're going to be held accountable for is very important.
Absolutely.
And to be clear, this is, the commission is the one that develops the overall policy for like use of force, and these are all the directives and bulletins that go into implementing that policy, right? So none of these things would ever change the overall policy that has been developed by the commission.
No, an example would be OC spray that we use. The commission would develop any policy when you can use it, how you use it. But something that would go in a directive is that our approved range is 3 to 12 feet. That's something that doesn't need to be expressed directly in department manual policy. It's kind of an addition to that policy.
Wonderful, thank you. Those are my questions.
Thank you. Commissioner Garcia.
Thank you. When training bulletin is released, what is sort of the oversight on ensuring that those who are actually training on it are interpreting it appropriately in the way it was designed to be interpreted and implemented and trained on?
I'll try to answer that in two parts. Number one, the intent of the training bulletin is that that there is not a lot of room for interpretation there. We have a section in our tactical concepts that talks about deviation from department concepts, but all of this is something that stems from department training. So our trainers are actually the ones that come up with it. So I hope that they wouldn't be misinterpreting it on the other end or using it some way which it's not intended to. However, our department training documentation is living and breathing. So if we find out, or if it comes to our attention that something is being misused or it's not being translated appropriately, then that's something we can change on our side also.
Thank you.
Commissioner Sanchez-Gordon.
I have no further questions. Thank you very much.
You're welcome.
Thank you. And again, thank you, gentlemen, for the report. And if there are no other questions or comments, I move that we approve the department's report. Is there a second?
A second.
Moved and second. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Motion carries. Thank you again.
Thank you very much.
Nice to meet you all.
We'll now move on to the final regular agenda item, which is the department's report relative to SUAS program, deployment guidelines and procedures. Chief, good morning again. And commanders, good to see you. And Chief, the floor is yours.
Go ahead. Good morning, everyone.
Morning.
Good morning, everyone. I'll start. So I'm Commander Ramos from the Office of Constitutional Policing and Policy. With me today is Commander Brian Liam from the Office of Operations, Chief Chow from the Office of Special Operations. You guys didn't ask him questions, so he came back. And then Commander Shannon Paulson from Counterterrorism and Special Operations Bureau. We are here today to discuss the proposed revisions to the Small Unmanned Aerial Systems Program. Let me just move this. Usually you guys use having the clicker, but okay. I'll discuss the background and some of the changes of the policy. Then Commander Liam will discuss the UAS as a first responder program. So very quickly, the first UAS policy was established in September of 2019. It only allowed for the SWAT unit, the bomb squad, and the hazmat unit to deploy and use UASs and have an established program. In December 2020, the policy was revised slightly to allow MSIT, which is the Multidisciplinary Collision Investigation Teams, to be able to utilize small UASs, and that was strictly for investigating traffic collisions that resulted in serious bodily injury. Since then, we've had a lot of requests department-wide to be able to use UASs for various reasons. So today, we're requesting the revision of the policy basically for two main reasons. One is to streamline the use and the reporting of small UAS deployments. And also the current policy, as I mentioned, restricts the use of the UASs to the 4 commands within the Office of Special Operations. So that we're trying to expand the pilot program for the UAS as a first responder. So the revisions for this policy will open and expand the permissible uses to allow for the implementation of the pilot program. The new policy provides the overarching guidelines for the use of UASs and allows for each office to develop their own specific guidelines for their mission-specific uses. Another reason for the change in policy is that the level of approval currently needed to deploy a small UAS, which is a deputy chief level, slightly delays the ability for the use of a UAS, which could aid in further faster deployment and a peaceful resolution of the incidents a little easier or faster. And Commander Liam will discuss that further in the first responder program. We are also implementing changes to allow for the deployments to be documented digitally on electronic format and allow more specialized units to use the small UAS systems. So again, we'll just cover the main changes to the policy from the current one. So first, the Office of Special Operations takes over as the managing of all programs. Currently, that's with the Air Support Division, so that would go up to a level to Chief Chow. Approval from a deputy chief prior to using the UAS is no longer required, and supervisors that are UAS coordinators will monitor UAS deployments. Third, the new policy allows for each UAS cadre to implement mission-specific controls on the use of small unmanned aircraft systems and allows any unit the ability to have a UAS cadre if it would help their mission. Okay, so we'll expand it a little bit. And then finally, the deployments can be documented electronically or on the paper form. So we're kind of getting into the next generation and have electronic forms to be filled out. Also, this slide kind of covers all of the prohibited uses, which we have expanded. So specifically the ones on here that weren't on the current policy but are expanded. UASs cannot be used to unlawfully harass, intimidate, or discriminate against any individual or group. It can't be used to target a person based solely on actual or perceived protected characteristics, such as race, color, religion, gender, and all the protected classes. Cannot be used to record or photograph First Amendment assemblies for the purpose of identifying participants who are not engaged in criminal misconduct. It cannot be used as a weapon. It also cannot be used for personal business of any kind or in a manner that is contrary to any additional restrictions imposed by the small UAS programs manager or a small UAS coordinator. The current restrictions will remain in place, which are cannot violate any city, municipal law, California state law, or the Constitution. It won't be used in adverse weather conditions or hazards that prevent safe implementation or operation of the UAS. It shall not be equipped with any weapon system, and it shall not be equipped with facial recognition. And with that, I'll pass it over to Commander Liam.
All right, good morning. So as mentioned, if this policy is approved, it would allow the department the ability to initiate a drone or first responder pilot program, and that's something that we would like to pursue. So I'd like to just take a few minutes and explain what DFR is and what our plan is. So DFR is a small unmanned aircraft system that's specifically to support patrol operations. So it's called drone first responder because it's a police officer, a first responder, responding to an incident via a drone. Sounds simple enough, but I get a lot of questions about what DFR is. The objective is not just to get a drone to the scene quickly, it's getting a police officer to the scene via a drone quickly. So DFR is much easier to say than small unmanned aircraft system, and it's caught on across the country. We need to give Chula Vista credit. Back in 2018, they were the first police department to establish the drone as a first responder concept. And since its adoption, law enforcement agencies across the nation have begun utilizing DFR. Unfortunately, we're not innovative in this sense. We're way behind the curve with this. So how it works. So a DFR program operates by a drone being flown by an officer to the scene of a citizen's call. It could be an officer's request over the radio. Ideally, potentially before the officers can arrive in their vehicles for whatever reason, traffic, the call load, et cetera. So this allows officers who are responding the opportunity to gain some real-time situational awareness. As the drone pilot, he can be communicating to the officers responding to what they're driving into and what to expect. So oops, what happened? I didn't do that. Oh, okay. Yeah, no, we'll do the. So before we do the video, the video you can see doesn't have sound. We presented today just to provide a visual aid on what the DFR drone may look like, as well as the base it'll be taken of. So we borrowed this from another agency. This is not our department. How do you play it? Oh, gotcha. So there's the base and the drone taken off from the base. So we would use a drone similar to this. And kind of the view or the vision that the drone, these are drone operators, they're flying from the computers, which is what we would be doing as well. And as they're flying, they're communicating with officers on the ground, so it's kind of envision this being a downtown kind of scenario. And you can see the visibility they have between buildings that would be difficult otherwise. And then you have officers on the ground that can take appropriate action. Okay, we'll go back. Okay, so several months ago, the department formed a working group to evaluate if a DFR program would make sense for LAPD. I've had the privilege of being part of that working group. We found the adoption of the DFR programs across the country have improved police response times, allowing officers to arrive at the scene and obtain critical information. It has enhanced their efficiency within departments, enabling better use of personnel and equipment. Ground officers now have access to real-time information, which assists in locating and apprehending criminal suspects more efficiently. The system also adds another layer of command and control for supervisors to make informed decisions in critical situations. And utilizing this capacity, drones have proven to be extremely valuable across the country. And the working group believes that the DFR program would also benefit for LAPD as well. So in selection of the areas to operate DFR program, there were several factors that we took into account. We were concerned about community support. Would the community in that area support it? Would the city councilperson for that area support it? We looked at the stations. Does the station have the rooftop space and could support DFR operations? And does the location have restricted or controlled airspace? Some of our divisions are near LAX and have challenging airspace. So the working group believes that Topanga, West LA, Harbor, and Central are areas all well suited to support the success of the pilot program. All 4 areas are located away from major airports and flight paths, ensuring compliance with FAA regulations and promoting safe drone operations. Based on discussions with the community, direct conversations with them, as well as the division commanding officers, we believe there's a strong community support. And we also reached out to some of the city council persons in the potential pilot locations, and we believe most will support the program as well. So this is an example, the next few slides. The star represents the police station where we would most likely fly off of, and the ring represents about a 2-mile radius. So depending upon the conditions, we would be flying 2 to 3 miles. So it gives you kind of a visual idea of how much of the division or how much geography we can cover. So that's Topanga, Harbor, West LA, and Central. So when we talk about training the DFR unit, all the DFR cadre members will be certified, licensed Part 107 pilots, and that's required by the FAA. It's not something, not discretionary. The department's already developed a 2-day DFR class, and the California Commission on Peace Officer Standards has approved that class. We're proud of that. We're one of the few departments that have developed that. It shows to the commitment of the department to have that level of training. The curriculum's going to cover a variety of essential topics, include constitutional law, case law. Our city attorneys will have a block to teach as well, along with tactical communication specifically designed for drone pilots. Our officers obviously have to learn. They're used to talking from the ground to the airships. Now they're talking from the perspective in the air down to this. So it's not nearly the same as being a TFO and air support, but they need to change their mindset and learn how to communicate that way. And then, of course, there'll be a refresher on the Part 107, the FAA regulations, and the airspace deconfliction. So public transparency. So recognizing the public's anticipated interest in this program, the department has worked with media relations to generate a page to be added to the department's forward-facing website. It'll be lapdonline.org. This DFR transparency page will emulate some of the layouts we've seen from other departments and currently retain their program. So these are just some of the things, but types of calls and frequency of the drone response, total calls responded to, number of calls which the drone assisted in identifying the suspects. And the key, the most popular one, I think, is the last one, the flight routes of the drones, including the date, time, location, and the type of call. So a citizen will be able to go to that website and see all the flights the drone has done. So the time, the date, the location, and the reason that we flew the drone. So they'll literally see the path from that. They won't see video, but they'll see the path like it's in the bottom left corner. And then when you're thinking about privacy, the department recognizes that the members of the public have concerns regarding privacy with the utilization of this technology. Drones are launched with cameras mounted on what's called a gimbal, maintaining a forward-facing orientation until reaching the designated location. So our department policy clearly prohibits the use of drones in any manner that violates the Constitution, obviously in city, state, and federal law. So the camera will face forward, and then once they're on scene, that's when they'll activate the recording. And additionally, law enforcement DFR programs, the ones we're working with the vendors, are designed to safeguard privacy through robust data management policies, including encryption and secure storage in evidence.com. So in closing, we're proposing launching this DFR pilot program in Topanga, Harbor, West LA, and Central. This 90-day program aims to provide valuable insights into the practical application of this technology. You know, vendors can make a lot of promises, but we want to see it for ourselves and see it in our city and our computers. But we believe it has a lot of benefits for the department. We believe it literally has the potential to improve our response times, more efficient use of our officers' time, provide real-time information that can be relayed to officers and supervisors on the ground, potentially make more informed decisions. So with that, I think we can take any questions that you have.
Commissioners, if I could just, I'd like to speak about the oversight piece because I think that's really significantly important. As you know, counterterrorism has had drones probably since 2019, but now that we're expanding into our patrol officers, Office of Operations, OSO will take over the drone program manager oversight piece. And I think the policy that we're bringing to the commission today is good because it's got enough, it sets the policy, but it's going to give our employees a little bit of discretion in how they operate. For example, the SWAT team's deployment of drones is going to be a little bit different than the way the patrol officers are going to be doing it, but the policy is going to create our operating parameters. And I think that, again, as Commander Limit said, we're behind the curve as far as technology is concerned. And I foresee that as we expand this, that there'll probably be other uses for this type of technology. And the policy is written so that we can expand it without having to change the policy all the time. But my job and OSO's job really is going to be to ensure the, number one, that all of our operators are trained, that they're in FAA compliance and maintain FAA compliance. We're going to be taking documentation of the deployments that are sent to us from Office of Operations and CTSOB, and you'll have a one-stop shop repository for all the deployments that we're having every single day. We'll take a look at that to make sure that it's within the permissible uses. We'll take a look at, we can do audits on video and things like that, and then we'll make sure that as we're going along that everybody is in compliance with the policies. And then, as the commission desires, we'll come back and provide a report as far as our compliance is concerned.
Yeah, from the CTSOB standpoint, obviously we are the longest using or users of this system. And I think historically, our usage shows a pattern of progress, of successes, full compliance with the existing policies with no concerns or aberrations. But the current policy as written, we have seen it does lead to some delays. And in some scenarios by some of our user units, in fact, the current policy as it is written leads to it not being a viable tool simply because of the delay that it would take in the notifications and the requirements before we can deploy it in a time-sensitive scenario. So I think from our CTSO standpoint, which, like the chief said, is a tactical usage distinctly different from drone as a first responder. But what this new policy would provide for us is kind of a simplified, streamlined, and expedited manner in which to deploy the drone, but still allows or still provides and requires that sense of accountability and notification that I think we all seek, understanding the sensitivities using technology such as this.
Well, first, I'd like to thank all of you, and I'd like to especially thank Commander Paulson and Chief Chow for the CT program thus far and the notifications that I got on weekends at late at night that you didn't have to give me, but I appreciated you letting us know what you were doing, and it was always done professionally and responsibly. I really want to thank Vice President Shields and Inspector General Barragan because they worked with the working group, and I know you felt like every time you took 2 steps forward, you took 1 back. I lost count of how many drafts we had of that policy, but thank you for your patience. I think it was worth it. The DFR working group did a really great job in your comparative analysis of other agencies from here to Chula Vista with regards to what they were doing. And what I want to say publicly is I applaud your emphasis and close examination of the prohibited uses, particularly as it related to First Amendment issues and how it would be used. So I want people to understand that we are in compliance, we are in line with other agencies, and most importantly, if you will, civil rights agencies as it relates to First Amendment, the use of drones in law enforcement. So thank you again for your patience. We would have thought we'd be here sooner, but I'm glad we took our time, and we were very diligent about how we were going to roll this out, and I think people will be responsible. I do have one question that I'd like to understand better, because I know I've asked this before. What exempts us from FAA line of sight operation of drones that most people have, in as much as we're doing it from a laptop or a computer instead of line of sight flying?
So we've obtained a waiver from the FAA.
And all or most law enforcement agencies have that same waiver?
If they apply for it, generally, yes.
Okay.
To Commander Paulson's point, because the department's been a good steward and we're responsible with drones for so long, it was easy to obtain.
Excellent, thank you. I don't have any other questions or comments. Vice President Shields.
Thank you, and thank you all for the work on getting to this point. I think when the commission first evaluated the use of drones back in 2019, it came up with a very restrictive policy, but understandably so because it was new technology, right? And wanting to make sure that the department had a good track record of being able to follow the rules. But now that we look at it and seeing not only the number of departments in California and across the nation that have used drones successfully for so long, I think we are now behind the times. And so I do think that this policy is getting the department in a position to better react faster and more smarter for policing and really helping both the community and officers respond to incidences. I was able to visit the Beverly Hills Police Department with their real-time crime center and also their use of drones and seeing how effective that can be in certain situations. And particularly if there's say there's a call of someone armed with a gun and the drone is the first to arrive and have eyes on it and see that it's a cell phone. How much that type of communication can report back to officers and help everyone de-escalate a situation that could have resulted differently. So I am hopeful that the drone as a first responder model will be successful. And I understand, this was kind of like a 90-day kind of test that you're piloting. At what point do you anticipate it getting off the ground, if you will? And because I would think the policy itself states that there will be kind of the annual reporting to the commission, but I would like a kind of sooner reporting once the drone as a first responder model begins.
So we're planning to do the training in July. Anticipate being able to go live in July.
Okay, wonderful. And so I would say, I would propose that the department come back to us within 6 months of it starting to come back and report back as to how it's going, if that's acceptable to the president.
We should plan on them coming back around January. First of the year.
Thank you. Those are my questions.
Thank you. Commissioner Garcia.
Thank you for this. I'm actually curious in your research and in use, what's the average arrival time for a UAS at, let's say, the 2-mile radius limit?
It's generally under 2 minutes, which obviously is quicker than in most cases officers can get there. So obviously it just depends on where it is in relation to the taking off, but it's usually within 2 minutes.
Okay.
So huge impact on our response time.
And for now, it's one for each one of the identified divisions?
Yes.
Okay. And are there hours of use or restricted hours of use?
We haven't locked those down. We want to crawl before we walk, so we'll certainly start on daytime, kind of middays, and grow from there.
Got it. Thank you. Appreciate it.
Thank you. Commissioner Sanchez-Gordon.
For your information. This was very, very informative, and I also want to thank the working group that, worked so hard. I just found out about this, and I'm impressed, and thank you so much for all that time that you put in making this happen. But I do have a couple of questions. Okay, I saw it on the video. I have an idea, but of what the size of this drone. This morning I saw a commercial about the Walmart drones, dropping it right in front of the porch of someone's house. Is it about that size or is it a little bigger?
So for DFR, it obviously is different than tactical drones, tend to be smaller, but there's 2 categories of drones, if you will, what we'd call a mid-size. They're typically around 2.5 pounds, and they go 45 miles an hour, give or take. And that was, you saw a picture of that, so it's about 12 inches or about a foot or so. And then the next size, a larger frame, goes a little faster, more like 50 miles an hour, and weighs more like 20 pounds. So different than what you see at Costco or Walmart, considerably bigger and heavier.
Okay, thank you. All right, so in the proposed language of the policy, does it include language that expressly addresses the use during First Amendment activities?
Yes.
Okay. And would that include, let's say, for example, all these demonstrations that we have in LA now? Do you plan to use that drone to supervise, to determine what's going on out there?
So, well, generally, the big value of the drones would be when crimes are occurring. So the policy specifically says that we'll use them when a crime has occurred. So whether it be unlawful assembly, the officers start taking rocks, bottles, fireworks are being thrown, that kind of thing, then the drone would be a valuable tool. Very, very similar to what we use the airship now. The problem is, especially when you're talking downtown, it's sometimes difficult for the airship to maintain line of sight, so.
Okay.
Well, if I could add too, one of the, the airship is extremely valuable, but that observer can only really focus on one thing at a time. So I think just to add to what Brian is saying, I think the drone will be useful if we have situations where we have people that are committing unlawful acts that are in the back that are harder to see from the front, as we saw in the 2 weeks ago. But I think that there will be some value in, identifying people that are committing crimes, but also identifying them and then doing prosecution that maybe we don't have that capability right now.
And Commissioner Sanchez-Gordon, if I can direct you to, I believe that the department intends to be able to use the drones for purposes of monitoring, say, crowd size or what's happening, where are they headed, is it becoming violent, is there any issue, and also, how are the officers acting? Are they, complying with their obligations? But one of the main prohibited uses is that the department is not going to be in the business of recording people just for purposes of identifying who's going to these marches or demonstrations, right? So the recording or photography is not going to be done for purposes of identifying people who are at that location that aren't involved in any criminal conduct. So that's the intent of trying to avoid any type of chilling of speech, if you will.
Correct.
Okay, well, that's important to know that not recording activity that is not unlawful, correct?
Correct.
Is that what you said?
Yes, and that is specifically written into the policy.
Yes.
It is, and the only other addition I would say to address regarding your questions regarding protests or crowds from the CT standpoint is any kind of a mass gathering, assembly in our world, in today's world, is a potential target. And so there are times when suspicious activity is brought to our attention that indicates the potential that, for instance, a mass gathering, a sporting event, a parade, is being targeted for nefarious activity, for criminal conduct, for an attack. And those are circumstances where I can foresee, under the new policy, allowing the slight expansion from a tactical standpoint that we may be deploying drones. It's similar in a special event scenario, similar to a drone as a first responder, to respond to that area of suspicious activity and try and identify whether there is an impending attack or a threat to public safety.
Okay, I guess I just want to make sure that the recordings are of, these activities will not be used against individuals that are lawfully exercising their rights. Okay, and there are safeguards. Okay, thank you. My next question is, Chief Chow, you talked about that each department, and you mentioned SWAT as one, will have discretion in its use and how to use it, yes?
Well, they have guidelines about where they're to use it. With the SWAT team, it's only used in a tactical situation when SWAT is deployed at barricaded suspect or hostage situation, those types of things. And we've always deployed the drone when we need to get a better view of where this before the SWAT officers actually start deploying. Very clearly spelled out guidelines on the part of CATSOB, so we're not bleeding into what the drone as a first responder is going to be doing.
And that's
we've
exactly,
had that since
that's exactly
2019.
what I wanted to hear, that there are guidelines in their use of discretion.
And we have the same thing for our bomb squad, as well as the MSIT. They're very specific guidelines about where that is and how those are to be used, and it doesn't bleed over into what the Office of Operations is kicking off.
Okay, thank you. And there was also a mention about, I guess, a prior policy, there were issues of delays that impeded response, and that now there is a more expedited manner of deploying or rationale to deploy this drone in a more expedited manner. Is that correct?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, so based on that, is there also accountability, safeguards on, okay, we need to do this quickly, this is happening now, somebody is monitoring that, right?
Yes, and in those scenarios, and the specific delays that we've encountered is the current policy requires that in a hazardous materials or bomb squad deployment, the commanding officer of Emergency Services Division must be present at scene before a drone can be deployed. And that is definitely a hindrance. There are times, a bomb squad deployment and frequently involves the shutdown of great swaths of geography. And the goal is to evaluate and render safe an item before you can, take any further action or begin to open that space up. And when you have a bomb squad that responds, at either across the city or to the airport or wherever they may be, and you are now requiring the singular command officer of that division, who may be otherwise engaged, might be in police commission, to be there before it can be deployed, that can be an unreasonable delay. But to your point, in those scenarios, from our standpoint as a tactical deployment in SWAT scenarios, bomb squad scenarios, et cetera, you always have a line of supervision, both from a tactical standpoint as well as a command standpoint, and an incident commander, which in most cases is a command officer. And so they approve any deployment of any technology, robotics. Before a SWAT team takes any tactical action, it is discussed and approved by that incident commander. And so there is very distinctly a clear line of accountability.
Okay, thank you. Well, good luck on your training in July, and I guess we'll see you back in January for an audit report of some kind. Thank you.
Okay. Thank you all again, and I don't think I can emphasize enough how much time we spent on the prohibited uses section, and I applaud you all for your patience on that, particularly as it relates to First Amendment assemblies. So if there are no other questions or comments, I will move that we approve the department's report. Is there a second?
A second.
Moved and seconded, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Motion carries. Thank you all very much. We will now recess into closed session.
The Board of Police Commissioners will now recess into closed session to discuss agenda items 5A1, 5A2, and 5A3 in accordance with Government Code 54957.
The commission has concluded closed session. We'll have a readout by Executive Director Sibley. Mr. Sibley.
Thank you, Mr. President. So item 5A in the closed session agenda, at the regular meeting of the Board of Police Commissioners on June 24, 2025, during the closed session, the board made the following findings, each by a 4-0 vote. For 5A1, which is in custody death 036-24, for tactics, tactical debrief, 1 police officer 2. Moving on to 5A2, officer involved shooting 037-24. For tactics, tactical debrief, 1 sergeant 1. For drawing an exhibition of a firearm, in policy, no further action, 1 sergeant 1. And for lethal use of force, in policy, no further action, 1 sergeant 1. And for 5A3, which was non-tactical unintentional discharge, 038-24. For tactics, tactical debrief, 1 police officer 2. For unintentional discharge, negligent discharge, administrative disapproval, 1 police officer 2. And that concludes the readout, Mr. President.
Thank you. The commission has concluded its closed session. I make a motion that we adjourn today's meeting. Is there a second?
A second.
Moved and seconded, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Motion carries. Thank you very much.